And a good Thursday night, everyone. Thanks for joining for this Tropics After Dark. And of course, we are still tracking Tropical Storm Elsa out there in the Atlantic. Good evening, Blake. Good evening, Jim. Thanks for joining. How you doing, Eric? Thanks for joining tonight. And of course, we'll talk about the latest on what is being called Elsa out there in the Atlantic and the latest statistics on Tropical Storm Elsa. As I pull them up right here, let's see. It is moving west-northwest at 26 miles per hour. So it has come down just a little bit as far as the speed goes. It was 29 miles per hour earlier when we were on here at about the 4 o'clock update. So it's definitely come down to speed a little bit. Still moving very fast, though. I mean, let's be clear on that. 26 miles per hour is still a fast forward speed. And the winds currently have gone up a bit, 50 miles per hour, pressure's at 1,003 millibars. So it has intensified a little bit since earlier. You can kind of see it on the satellite picture, especially at the end of the loop there, right? In the beginning, it's a little smaller. You can see at the end, you start to see some of those whites, darker colors toward the middle. Well, that tells you that we do have some strengthening happen, and that's likely what we saw there. Thanks a lot, Ginger. I appreciate that. So let's talk about the latest on Elsa and what we're seeing tonight. And, we don't have any monumental changes from earlier today. Like I told you earlier, we're going to see some flipping and flopping and the final destination of the forecast cone. That's why I'm stressing to y'all still to really not pay too much attention to the actual end of the forecast cone there, because we're going to see some changes on it. But here's a look at the current. Thanks, Sheena. I appreciate that. Here's a look at the current forecast cone from the National Hurricane Center. And, it shifted slightly back to the east a little bit. Remember, from yesterday, it had shifted back to the west today a little bit. Now it shifted back to the east. And then for 4 a.m., when they come out with a new cone, it might shift back west. But I'm telling you, just please don't pay too much attention to the last few frames or the last part of that. I'm talking about that polka dot shaded area, like that little shaded area at the end there. They shade that a different color for a very good reason, and that's because there's a lot of uncertainty still in the long range here, okay? So what we know for certain is that tropical storm warnings are issued in the blue area there on the islands, the Lesser Antilles. It's going to be moving through there overnight and into tomorrow morning. They're going to see some tropical storm conditions, and then we have tropical storm watches up for the Dominican Republic and Haiti, and also Jamaica, and I'm sure those will be extended into the Cayman Islands as well, moving into the weekend. So it's going to move through the islands, and we're going to see what that does to it, right? We call this sometimes a tropical graveyard because it rips up these storms sometimes. So if it would take this track right now that the National Hurricane Center has, as far as, right through the island of Cuba and staying over Cuba for a little while, that'll certainly disrupt the circulation. That remains to be seen, though, if that's going to happen. The European model is a little bit faster and turns this thing a little bit before, so I think one thing to keep in mind is let's watch the forward speed. Remember earlier it was at 29 miles per hour as far as how fast the motion was. Now it's decreased to 26. The European model has this going faster and turning sooner, whereas the GFS is slowing it down a little bit more, and that allows it to go a little bit more to the west because it would kind of miss that initial weakness that's created that the European model zooming into. I mean, the European model has it going northeast very soon, like before it even has a chance to hit the US. So the solutions are much different. And that's, that always causes some trouble there as far as, the track, and the National Hurricane Center has to respect what the Europeans saying, but there's a lot of reliable models that are taking this more west as well. And so they're still splitting the difference here at the end of it, right? Because you got a couple of camps going this way, and you got a couple of them are going more west. And so right now they're just kind of sticking it right here, but I'm telling you that's going to shift more. Left or right. And let me show you what I'm talking about here. First and foremost, you look at the players and what we're looking at, kind of what we talked about earlier. Here's that dipping trough. You can clearly see it here on the water vapor, and this is going to be big because there's a ridge over here. You can't really make that out, but anyway, there's a ridge over here, and this is going to start to nudge that ridge off to the east. And that's going to create that weakness for the storm to get into. Now, if it's moving faster, You know, the European model is indicating it would hit this weakness faster and maybe turn in to that weakness quicker and really not do much at all and not even impact the United States a little bit. The European model, I'm sorry, the GFS model is a little bit slower and would have this storm allowing that trough to kind of back away and retreat, and that would allow the high pressure to start building back west, and so the GFS would miss that initial weakness but then track more west along the high, and then we'd have maybe a bigger threat in the Gulf. So there's two camps there. The one, honestly, Yvonne asked which one am I favoring. Honestly, I kind of lean more toward GFS a little bit here. It's handled these storms better last year, you know, but again, like I said earlier, every storm, every model has its day, right? So it's not to say the European might not be right here. For me personally, though, I'm leaning more toward what the GFS is showing, you know, right now. But we're going to know pretty fast, you know, pretty quickly over the next couple of days. So a couple of things that I like to do as we go forward is to kind of see how the models are verifying. So if you look at the GFS model here, and, you know, first we can kind of see, let's go to this Atlantic satellite picture. And here's the storm, right? So if you were to take the storm kind of west-northwest, you're going to be hitting the bottom island chain as it goes in that direction, right? And so we look at the GFS model, and that's where it has it going, right? And then as you move it forward here, it has it actually south of Hispaniola and Haiti. So the storm would not interact much with those islands if it would take that track. So not a good thing as far as strengthening, because it would allow it to stay in the water. We don't want it to hit the island, but I'm saying it's a give and take thing, right? So if it goes over the island, it's more of an impact for Hispaniola and Haiti. Not good. But it would also disrupt the circulation. But if it stays over water, it would be stronger. Still get some impacts in that island, but obviously it wouldn't move right over it. So something to keep in mind and to watch as we go through the next couple of days to see how these models handle it. Remember, the GFS here is indicating that storm stays south totally of this island. So as we get into Saturday afternoon, let's see where the location is of this storm. Let's see which model's verifying better. If it's south of the island, that tells us the GFS is handling it better. And then really, the GFS keeps it over water until we get to around here. And that's where it would cross Cuba, right? All right, so let's look back at the cone. And you see what the National Hurricane Center does keep the storm just south of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. I mean, just south of it. And then has it crossing Cuba somewhere around the middle portion of the island. So the National Hurricane Center, to me, looks like they might be favoring the GFS model a little bit more than the European model. Now, watch what the European model does. All right, so here comes the European model, crosses just maybe around the same area the GFS had it crossing the Lesser Antilles there, maybe a little bit north. But then it has it really moving right over Hispaniola, right? And then crossing over Cuba. And then it's done. It's gone. That kills the storm, basically. And then it just gets sucked into this void here and this weakness, and it's gone. That's it. So one thing to look for, and again, like I said, we'll know this pretty quickly. This is Saturday morning here, by the way. That's Saturday morning at 6 a.m. the European model is indicating, and the GFS has it at Saturday at noon south of the island with a slower motion, where there's the Europeans right on top of the island at 6 a.m. So the European model is about 6 hours faster and more north. So by Saturday morning, that's not long from now, right? Only about a day or so, a little bit more than a day. We're going to know a lot by which model is starting to verify here, because we'll be able to see. If it stays south of Hispaniola, that tells us that we'll be able to see the speed and what's happening, because once it goes, if it stays south and a little bit slower, well, that tells us that the GFS model is probably verifying a little bit better. Now, talking about what's going on here as far as the scenario. I talked about this earlier. Not all of you were on probably earlier, so let me talk about it again a little bit, because here's what's happening. We looked at this dipping trough right here. Remember, here it is, right here. If you look at it in real time and then go back to the model. There it is on the model. Let's push it forward now. Here's the other player, right? That big high pressure right here, the subtropical ridge. The storm rides along it. Now, at some point, the trough dips down enough where it's going to create a little bit of a weakness. Now, what happens when it starts to create a weakness? The storm starts to slow down a little bit. As soon as it starts to feel that, making that edge of the high, as long as it's riding along it where it is now, south of it, it zooms west, right? 25 to 30 miles per hour. That's how fast it's moving. But once it starts to near the periphery and the edge of the high, then we start to see a slower motion. So by the time we get into Saturday afternoon, evening, early Sunday, that's when we should start to see this thing slow down a little bit. And what will that do? Well, it allows this trough to back in that way. And that once the trough backs to the north, that's going to allow this high now to build in west a little bit, right? Now that takes out that European solution. Can't go out to sea at this point. So we'll know fast, right? By Saturday, we're going to know if this thing is going out to sea like the European model is saying. One thing, these things usually happen is you have one model that says this and one model that says this, and then one conforms to the other. We'll see which one it is. I think that the European is going to conform back to where the GFS is saying, and this is going to stay a little bit more south. It's just what I think. We'll see what happens. Again, could be wrong. I'm just saying that. But here's the high at this point, blocking any harmless passage out to sea, right? At this point, this is Monday night now. Now, how far west can it go? Well, that's the $1 million question. If anybody has the answer to that, message me, please. But how far can this high build back in? I won't just to throw something out there. Again, if you're joining, this is 2012 back. We all remember 2012. This is Isaac. All right. This is Isaac's track back in 2012. It's in the similar place that Elsa is right now. And that was the cone. Similar scenario, high pressure to the north, trough coming down. Okay. So, but we know what happened with Isaac as things evolved. In the long term, things can change. I'm not saying it's going to be this track as Isaac. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the 4 and 5 day cone is not reliable yet. All right, we've done a lot in weather and we've done a lot in models and forecasting, but it's just not there yet, and still not. Okay, so we're still not there. So my point is that things can and usually do change in the long term. Now, it can go west, it can go east. So we got a lot of things to to look for here. But what I'm saying is I'm still saying that if you're anywhere, I'd say from Southeast Louisiana all the way down the Florida Peninsula, watch this thing, because no one is clear from this yet. Okay, so that's my only point here. And another thing to look at, these are the GFS ensembles, right? This is like the GFS models run a bunch of different times with different dynamics and ingredients put in, and these are the solutions they come up with, right? These are the latest ones, all right? And look, what you can see here is that the models that have this thing going over the islands are weaker in the long run here. But these red areas you see in the oranges, those are the ones that likely get it up to a hurricane. It would be the ones that go over the islands and back over this water would be a good to develop. It would get stronger. And then the ones that go more south and west and avoid Cuba altogether and back into the Gulf, these are the ones that would be stronger as well. So right now, we are splitting the difference with this National Hurricane Center, right? They're going somewhere in here. But there's a lot of different scenarios, is my point. So that's what I just wanted to stress to you, is that there's a lot of things that can still happen. And with so many different things that it has to go through, there's a lot of islands. It has to slow down. The trough has to dip down. The high needs to back up. The high's going to build back in. The trough's going to move out. Is there interaction with Hispaniola? Is there interaction with Cuba? When does the storm slow down? Is it going to slow down? How slow is it going to go? All right, so that's just a few different things that I just mentioned that still have to happen. So my point is right now, the track appears that it could affect the west coast of Florida. That has not happened in a while as far as a hurricane or we saw Ada last year late in the season, but the Tampa area is due. They have not had a major impact from a storm or a hurricane, something stronger. It remains, though, let me tell you, though, the National Hurricane Center does not have this as far as their forecast getting up to a hurricane at this point. That's another thing that remains to be seen, right? So, so my point is that this track does not happen often, right? We have not seen this track in a while. Tampa has not gotten these types of landfalls in a little while. So, not saying this won't happen. I'm just saying it's a rare track, and prepare for changes toward the end. Is it going to go west? Is it going to go east? I can't tell you that for certain right now, but yes, Jody, Texas is looking very good right now. But what I can tell you is that polka dot shaded area, please don't put too much stock in it right now, because we're going to see that windshield wiper thing happening with the final landfall spot. Okay, so my hope is that it takes the European track, it fizzles out, and boom, it's gone. We don't have to talk about it anymore. Could that happen? Sure. It definitely could happen. Is it a likely scenario? Maybe not. Just to stress to you guys the difference between the two models right now. This is the GFS, and this is indicating Tuesday, this upcoming the 6th at 8 a.m. This is the GFS model. Pretty strong storm there coming into through the Florida Straits. That's the GFS, and this is the European model. So big differences between the two. There's nothing there. Pretty day right there, right? In the Gulf around the Keys, Cuba, Florida, not much happening. So there's a pretty significant difference. There's the GFS and there's the European model. So big differences between the two models. I do want to stress to you again, the National Hurricane Center. This is from their discussion tonight from the 10 p.m. They indicate, and they do this a lot. A lot of times, folks that aren't tracking these things, and a lot of folks don't read the discussions, but they put this discussion on the National Hurricane Center site. You can always click the discussion and kind of read what they're thinking. In the second paragraph, it says the track forecast in the late part of the period remains low confidence. They admit it. That we have low confidence in the long range. I mean, they don't want to. They don't tell you that. Like, they don't release the cone and say big low confidence sign on this thing. They should. Because I think that might help the public to see that. But they say we have low confidence in this forecast. So when they say that, when I go in there and read that and they say that, I make sure that I can communicate that to y'all, that they're not certain of this, obviously, because they'll always indicate that. If they have confidence in it, they'll tell us that. We have high confidence in the long range. This is where it's going to go. But right now, like I said before, the 3-day forecast is really what to pay attention to right now. That's what the cone would look like if you just looked at the 3-day, and that's really where we have the confidence right now. But when you put the other stuff up, it's great to have, I guess, for some guidance. But man, there's a lot that can happen in the long run, especially when you're dealing with something with so many dynamics and so many islands in play here. So wanted to mention that to y'all. But that is the latest cone from the National Hurricane Center for Elsa. Take it for what you will, but there you go. Angel says the NHC needs a Yeti. Yeah, boy, can you imagine if they start putting that in their cones? They will not. I promise to do that. But yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, Blake. Appreciate that. Texas, yeah, like I said, looking good there. Why do I have a feeling we'll be in the cone in 2 days? Pam, is that Pam, you from Louisiana? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, Louisiana can't take any more cone. Priscilla says Elsa should just take her own advice and just let it go. Yeah, I have a feeling, man, this is not going to let it go, is it? It's been for a while. How's Texas looking? Alberta says very good right now. Actually, Alberta, it's very good for this one. I think west of Grand Isles in the clear. Brandy says, yeah, we hope so. We hope so. It's a hot mess. Yep. Carol says out to sea would be just grand. That is true. We'd love to just take it out to sea, but never know. We'll see. Let's see. Yeah, it's just it's crazy here. Hey, how you doing, Phil? Thanks for joining tonight. Yeah, last season we had Alabama, Pam. Okay, yeah, Alabama. Close. You're close right now to the cone, right? It wouldn't take much of a shift to the to the west to at least put you in a part of the cone. So don't be shocked if you do end up in it, at least the left side of it. Wouldn't surprise me at all. So that's the latest on Elsa. We'll see. I'm sure we'll see some changes coming a little bit to the cone, but right now, the best we can do is say for now, Florida would be the one. The west coast of Florida is the one to prepare and be vigilant of this. But everyone else from southeast Louisiana, I'd say in the extreme western portion there, like southeast Louisiana would probably be the farthest west, but I'm not saying to be concerned there, but watch it. Mississippi, Alabama coast, all the Florida Panhandle, especially the Florida Panhandle. Would not be surprised to see something around maybe Panama City. Panama City area over there, landfall. That wouldn't shock me. So all the Florida Panhandle needs to watch this. But right now, Florida is the one that's in the cone, so stay vigilant of this. So definitely stay vigilant. Let's see. Yeah, Scott, if the front... So that front that's going to dip down, like I said, there's a lot of dynamics, right? That front that's dipping down here, and again, it's July. Sometimes these things aren't as strong as forecast. But if this thing doesn't retreat, I'm sorry, if this thing doesn't push south as much and nudge this high east, then that would keep the high in place, right? And that would probably force the storm to be a little bit more of the western side of the ensemble model. So that's the scenario there, where if the front's not strong enough and it doesn't push that high quite as much as as indicated, then yes, that would probably push the track a little bit more to the west. So something to watch for. So that's the latest on Tropical Storm Elsa, and I'll continue to keep y'all updated on the page. I'll update y'all as we go to. I think there'll be a new GFS model around midnight. Well, actually, hold on a second. I like to do this sometimes on this thing. We can reload and maybe. Yeah, here's the latest GFS. I don't think we have now. We only have 24 hours of run there. Doesn't look much different, I don't think. Let's see. Yeah, the only thing is it's a little bit weaker. A little bit weaker on the new run, but as far as the position, it looked about the same. That's the latest run. I'll watch that and share that with y'all on the page when it runs fully. But yeah, doesn't look like much of a change there from the first couple of frames. That's all I can see though. So yeah, that's the latest. Stay with the page, y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for the supporters. Thanks for the star senders. Really do appreciate that. Share this video if you would like, and stay with the page, and I'll keep y'all updated. And of course, as we go through this Elsa threat or whatever you want to call it, I'll continue doing these videos and keeping y'all updated.